less a tutorial about learning how to sew and more a tutorial just to walk you through how to do this mask for experienced sewers. So the first thing that you have to do once you get the material is to get the tape off. Now, obviously some of the tape is going to take some of the material, and if it leaves a hole in it, then you just can't use that particular section. But some of it comes off pretty easy, and you can see there's a little bit of a film coming. Most of it around that area can still be used. So as we're cutting it and we're patterning it, some of it's just going to have to be scrapped. But get all of the tape off of it, and then you'll have material to work with. So there are 3 basic types of surgical material that I'm finding, and they're all vary in thickness. I don't know how well you can see this on tape, but you can see how this one bends. This one is the thinnest, and here we've got one kind of in the middle. On the thicker one, the tape, of course, comes off a little bit easier and provides a little more thickness, but the thicker doesn't breathe quite as easily. It offers more protection, of course, so you've got to trade with that. Right now, we're kind of making them out of all of them, but the thickest ones are the better ones because they're more durable. The ties are going to last longer, and they're going to hold their stitching more than the ones that are this thin. So the most popular wrap that I'm seeing is about this size, which is about almost 36 inches by 17 and a half. And this 17 and a half, this length is about perfect for a strap, anywhere between 17 and 19. So that makes it easy on this particular one that you can cut your straps. To keep your fabric together, you can pin it throughout to try to hold it, or if you feel like you're steady and if you're experienced with cutting fabric, you could just double up the layer and then just cut 1-inch straps and get rid of this little selvage seam here first to start, because that will not separate. And what we're going to do ultimately is after we cut our strap, we're going to separate them and use them individually. And I've been just doing a bunch at a time, almost like an assembly line, to get this going. Here are the patterns that we've cut out, and if you go to the Munson Medical Center website, that's where we got this from the great people at the Phoebe Medical Center who were kind enough to share their ideas. And there are instructions on there, but again, we made the video just to help it hopefully make a little more sense. So what I've done is I've cut myself one out of regular printer paper, and then I used pattern paper to make myself a second one. I'm folding it, doubling it once, and then doubling it again. And then I'm pinning this in place to keep all of those layers together. Okay, then you'll simply lay your pattern piece on top of your material like you would any other pattern, pin it into place, and then start to cut your fabric out. The first notch here is going to be where your placement is going to go for your straps, which is important. The second notches are just going to be to help you line it up. Now, sometimes after you're cutting, when you're doubling and folding, what you're going to do is come across one of those areas where you rip some of the fabric off. Well, obviously that's going to change its protection level. So that one you just have to scrap. And you should be able, because hospitals go through so much of this, it's not about the material. It's really about the time to get these done. So if you happen to cut one when you come across it, if you've got a shape or one of your ties where the paper is compromised, then you just need to discard that. Okay, so now we've got this cut through our different patterns. 2 halves of these will make one whole mask. So we'll start by taking the right sides and opening them up. So I've got right sides out, and then our strap that we cut here, we'll cut that in half and separate them. And where we have our notches, so that we know where to put our placement, and then line these back up together. So fold your strap in there, make sure this is in the middle. And then your second strap will go there. Now you're ready to sew this seam. You're just going to sew a 1/2 inch seam here. And at this point, back stitching isn't as big of a deal because this side is going to be sewn again anyway. So at least just get that stitching there to hold your ties in place. Now take your sides, turn them right side out. Now pin your right sides together to make your center seam. And your notches should line up there. Now we're going to go sew a 1/2 inch seam there as well. On this seam you will want to back stitch. So if your machine doesn't do it for you, make sure you do a back stitch. Now for that center seam, we're going to zigzag stitch it into place. So press it to the side. If you don't think you can hold it while you're sewing, feel free to pin that into place, but I found it just as easy to kind of hold it, especially when I invert that. Also be sure to back stitch here. Okay, and there you have it, which can work perfect as a cover for an N95 or in a pinch on its own with the ties like so.